Titans show. I'm Justin.
I'm Brandon.
Welcome back. Episode number 3 together. I'm excited, dude. This is the best show yet. As we were talking about, I'm going to say the biggest game in sports for the year.
All of sports?
Yeah, because it's the best rivalry in sports. Carolina Duke, round 1 last night. So rapid reaction, kind of. I mean, we're only, the game ended less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Perfect timing.
It was a great game.
Absolutely. It was a very good game. Carolina did pull out the win 93-84. The game was in Chapel Hill. They were 4.5-point favorites, so they did cover the spread. Brandon, I mean, let's just start with what were your thoughts going into the game? Duke had 2 close games leading up to this against Clemson and against Virginia Tech, which I think the Virginia Tech game was a little closer than the score indicated.
They pulled away at the end with free throws.
Yeah, and then Carolina losing to Georgia Tech the game before.
RJ Davis got fouled.
Oh, 100%.
If Tyrese Proctor got fouled against Clemson, then RJ Davis got fouled against Georgia Tech.
Yes.
Period.
Yes, that was, I cannot believe that call was not made.
It was egregious.
I mean, even the commentators, it seemed like even the teams were expecting a foul to be called. Like, he just kind of laid there, and it looked like Georgia Tech was kind of like, okay, well, where's the foul?
Yeah, I mean, it was so clear and so obvious. It almost made me think, and I hate to ever accuse or say things like this, but did that ref have the money line?
I mean, did you see the referees literally ran out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew they ran out on a home game.
Yeah.
The home team got the victory.
Yeah. Yeah.
They shouldn't have.
It even stunned the fans because the fans didn't even storm the court right away. Did you notice that too?
No.
Like they.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like it took them a few minutes, to even be like, oh, like we're supposed to be rough. Like it's over. One of the weirdest endings to a game I think I've ever seen.
I hate the inconsistency in reffing though, because a lot of people have argued this claim, and yeah, I'm a Duke fan, so I'm gonna say it. Tyrese Proctor was technically fouled. They can say what they want about it being ticky-tack, but by the letter of the law, he was fouled. RJ Davis got clubbed going into that lane. His whole momentum of his body went backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And they swallowed their whistle.
And that's the biggest problem with the late game fouls, especially in college basketball. It's not consistent.
No.
Both those calls should go the same way. Whether they're both fouls or not fouls, it's like, okay, at least we know what to expect. It's the fact that you don't know what to expect on those kind of calls. Like with the Tyrese Proctor one, it's like you're so used to that not being called a foul that when they called it, it was like, holy crap, they called it. So then when it happens to RJ Davis, you're like, okay, well, they just called it 2 nights ago. Right. Now they're not calling it. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
But that's the thing, though. I understand calls get missed and phantom calls get made.
Yeah.
But this was so clear and obvious. To me, it's like deciphering the difference between a quarter and a penny. You can't mess that up.
No.
This was a foul.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have been shooting 2 free throws, and I mean, any logical person would have favored him, obviously, to make them both win the game.
93%.
He's the best free throw shooter in the ACC.
Yes.
One of the best in the country.
Yes. 5th in the country or 3rd in the country or something like that?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing with Carolina losing that game, your thoughts going into the big game, I guess it changed.
Yeah. I thought Duke would win if North Carolina would have beat Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
I thought with being undefeated in the ACC at home, lots of pressure. But it's like that totally went away after the refs swallowed their whistles on behalf of Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And I knew that was going to be a tough game. I'm actually not that surprised. I mean, that North Carolina won by 9 points.
Yeah.
There was a point there where I thought they were going to really run away and Duke was just going to give up. Duke did not give up.
No, Duke did not
give
up. They
kept playing. They made some serious mistakes, and with the absence of one player that, yes, I am mad at him today because I know how good he can be, Mr. Tyrese Proctor. Why were you there?
Well, he had 2 points.
I'm glad. And he had 3 fouls in 5 minutes. And he was non-existent. And even when he was in the game, he looked lost. He was responsible for 3 or 4 of their turnovers alone. And here's the weird thing. I've been thinking about this all day. Justin, if you said, Brandon, Duke's going to have 84 points.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen?
Oh, I thought Duke would win if they had
Win.
84. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And a lot of the box score here is going to back up the stats.
Yeah.
Their stats were actually
They shot over 50%, Duke did.
So Duke shot 50.7%,
Yeah.
and the Heels shot an
50
exact
exactly,
50%. Yes.
Yeah.
Now the Heels did hit 9 out of 24 on three. Duke hit 5 out of 19 on three.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the big one. Here's the one. Turnovers.
Oh, turnovers were huge, yeah.
What was the difference?
Carolina had 1 turnover in the first half. That was huge.
They had, 5 in the whole game?
Yeah.
That's great.
Fast break points also helped Carolina a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. If you look at just the Duke stats in this game, don't even look at Carolina stats. Just look at the Duke stats. The points, the shooting, even the 3-point shooting, really, which wasn't that bad. Only 5 of 19. It's not like they shot 26% with like
Right.
43s or something. But you look at those Duke stats, and then you look at the fact that R.J. Davis only had 17 points.
You'd think Duke would win the game.
Yeah, I would have thought Duke would have won by like 15. Like, I thought it wouldn't have even been close.
Duke
But-
had 3 players over 20 points.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. And the fact that they only had the lead for 16 seconds.
2-0.
Yeah. And then they tied it at one point, 22-22. Crazy. This game was very weird, man. Like you said, Proctor doesn't show up.
He was absolutely worthless
Yeah.
in this game.
And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. Filipowski,
Got punked.
he's looking worse and worse, honestly, to me. Like, not just in this game, but I think for the last few games, it looks like he's just getting worse and worse. I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know if it's maybe the fact that he's not the best player on the team. But this dude, how did he go from last year, me thinking he was going to be a top 10 draft pick, to now I think he might be the 4th best player on Duke's team?
I think you're right about that. I'd still say 3rd best player, but
Yeah, okay, yeah.
right now,
I mean,
Jared
McCain.
McCain's the best player on the team.
100%. 100%.
And
He's a killer.
Martin Mitchell is the most useful player on the team. He is there. Now, he had some tough defensive matchups last night to where, okay, he's got some things to work on, but I don't think there's a player in the country that would have guarded Harrison Ingram last night. I will say that.
Yeah.
Not one. Not even. I mean, none of them.
Yeah, that was. We'll get to Ingram in a second, but my thoughts on Mitchell first is he's that. I feel like Duke almost every year has a player that's underutilized, and that's Mitchell. I think Mitchell really should be. He should be getting the second most touches, I feel like, because I don't think anybody on Carolina could have stopped him if he would have got the ball more. Now on defense, he was a liability possibly, but on offense, they just never really. He had 6 shots.
Yeah.
That's not enough for him.
No. And he only had 7 rebounds.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to give Carolina credit on that part.
Yeah, I mean, at 7 well, also both teams shot over 50%. Nobody's really going to get that many rebounds. I mean, the leading rebounder in the game had 13. I mean, there were only 3 players with 10 plus rebounds.
What blows my mind about this game is this game was 1 rebound difference.
Yeah.
Duke had 34, UNC had 35.
Yep.
If you had told me we have 84 points, we'll match them in rebounding, 3 players score over 20,
Oh, yeah.
I'd say solid 10 to 15 point win.
Absolutely. 100%. The on paper, Duke should have won this game. I'm not sure, but I think, like you said, I think that losing to Georgia Tech made Carolina refocus on, hey, we haven't looked, because Carolina didn't look good against Florida State the game before that either.
No, they didn't.
But early in January or in December, they looked great. Harrison Ingram was a man, and he finally went back to that against Duke. I mean, he made 5 threes, but he was also diving on the floor for loose balls. He was grabbing rebounds that he should not have been grabbing. And also the key thing is, and here's something that I think Carolina has that other teams don't have right now, or that Carolina has not had in the years past, and that's Elliot Cadeau. When he's on the
Garbage
court,
man.
when Elliot Cadeau's on the court, this team looks fantastic.
He's fast.
He's so fast, and he's under control. He really, honestly, to me, he might make one mistake a game maybe. And usually, most of his mistakes, if you ask me, are because his teammates aren't used to playing with a point guard like him. He's an old school point guard. He's not newer point guards are going to score 25 points, like R.J. Davis or, Jeremy Roach. But Cadeau is, hey, I'm going to pass you the ball every time down the court. and he just moves that ball. Carolina had 18 assists on 33 field goals. That's an insane number right there. But if you look at all their big wins this year, that's about what they've been at. Now, the last couple of games have struggled because Cadeau's been in foul trouble. Harrison Ingram hadn't been playing great. Baycott hadn't been getting any rebounds. All three of those things changed. Cadeau didn't get in foul trouble. Ingram starts scoring. Baycott starts getting rebounds. And you see Carolina wins a top 10 matchup. And I think they really legitimately are a top 5 team in the country now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think their ranking's right.
Yeah.
I think their ranking is exactly where it's supposed to be. I'm still not sure they're on that Purdue level. Kentucky, I hexed you, and I'm not sorry.
Well, they got 3 straight losses now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Tennessee, and that game was not as close as the score said either. Dalton connected all over their heads last night. That was fun to watch, actually.
Yeah.
I needed a nice pick-me-up after that game, so I'd like to thank Tennessee for that.
And that made the day even better for me seeing Tennessee win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Carolina as a 3 seed or as a number 3 team is probably correct. I think the top 2, UConn and Purdue, is without a doubt the top 2. I don't think there's any question who the top 2 are. But after that, I think you do got 3 or 4 teams next in line. I think it's Carolina. I think it's Tennessee, who you mentioned, and then I'm throwing Kansas back. I'm throwing Kansas back in there also. I think those are like the next 3 teams in line. Maybe you could still put Arizona in there. Maybe they're struggling a little bit, but you could still possibly put them in there just because of what they've shown. But I think let's talk more about this game.
I still think Duke's a top 10 team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Duke's in that 3rd tier.
Yeah.
I just named 3
8, 9, 10, 11, 12 area.
Yeah. I think they're in that 2nd tier where it's like anywhere from like 7 to like 15. I think you could take.
Oh, yeah.
You could probably
they're
take,
definitely in there.
There's about 8 teams right there, and I think Duke's one of them. It's them, like Creighton, Houston, even though they lost at Kansas, but I think Houston's still probably a top 15 team. I think you got, who are some of the other teams that could be out there in that range, like
Marquette. Creighton, and there's another one that's really impressed me lately, and they're gonna. Who is it? I'll have to look.
You got like 8 teams in that group right there. I think that's the 3rd tier. I think this is a year where you have multiple tiers. Normally you have like 5 or 6 at the top, and then this year you have a 1st tier, a 2nd tier, and a 3rd tier. Duke's in the 3rd tier. Carolina's in the 2nd tier. UConn and Purdue are pulling away with it. But let's go back to this game here. Let's talk about the rotations a little bit. Carolina really cut down on their rotation. Only played 8 players. Duke also only played 8 players. Ryan Young continuing to play 10 minutes a game.
And it was a good 10 minutes. They should have played him a little bit more, use him for some more fouls.
So you think he should be getting more playing time over like a couple of the other 5-star players?
You know what? He's the only one that's actually going in there and giving it all of his heart, and he especially did last night.
He definitely tries, yeah.
Yes, and he's also a big body, and he's a good rebounder. And last night we needed a lot of that.
Yeah.
Do I think he's an answer to our problems? No.
I mean, I just think.
But I'm gonna throw something else
that
you're probably gonna agree with here, that I'm now admitting because I saw it firsthand last night, was coaching.
Oh, coaching.
There was a coaching disparity there.
So you're going back to our very first episode, which y'all can find on YouTube or Spotify. Just search for Good Blue, Bad Blue, where I said, is Jon Scheyer a good coach? Is that what we're going back to?
I still think he's a good coach. I just think he got mightily outcoached last night. UNC was getting great shots.
Yes.
They didn't have to struggle and shoot shots. It seemed like every shot that Duke made or took
was a struggle.
Was a serious struggle. Yeah.
Almost every shot Carolina had was almost wide open.
The only reason that Duke was in the game until about what I'd say until it was 26-22, and then UNC kind of took off and never looked behind after that.
Never got back within
because Jeremy Roach and Jared McCain were getting to the rack. And by the way, when you play against a good perimeter defense, that's how you have to beat them.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I'll give them credit on that. But once they shut the lanes down, they shut Duke down. Duke looked scared. They looked tentative. They looked panicked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go with a long list of reasons, and they still scored 84 points.
I think in a weird way, the tides have turned from where they were a year ago today.
Mm-hmm,
I think Hubert Davis has proven that he's actually a good coach. He just needed the right players. Maybe the right players weren't the players that he had last year. Maybe Caleb Love isn't the player. Maybe Pete Nance wasn't the player. maybe Leaky Black wasn't the player. Because you go back to the year they made the Final Four, they were coached pretty well. I mean, a lot of open shots. And now maybe we're switching. Maybe John Shire's not a great coach. Maybe now I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying, a lot of people were saying, hey, he might be, a top coach because of what he did last year. But again, it goes back to recruiting. He's getting the top players every year. Of course, you're going to be somewhat successful. I mean, you're not going to have a bad team if you're getting 4 or 5 McDonald's All-Americans.
No.
So, yeah, it's weird that the tides have changed like that. But you keep saying Duke scored 84 points. Carolina scored 93. Was this maybe possibly a game, though, where Carolina just said, we can score almost any time we want, and they just kind of maybe let Duke score a couple of times? Like, did Duke get 84, not by accident, but did they get 84 because Carolina scored 93? You see what I'm saying?
I think Carolina got 93 is because Mr. Hubert Davis gave them the roadmap to get 93. The roadmap was simple. It was R.J. Davis handling the ball, get it down to Baycott, hit Ryan, hit Ingram, hit all these players. Use your speed, use your quickness, use your advantages that you have on Duke.
Yeah.
Because Duke might be a little bit bigger of a team, but North Carolina is definitely a faster and more athletic team. They used their advantages to where when Duke had the ball on offense, they had to depend on these ridiculous shots that somehow went in, and that's how they played the game.
Yeah.
Now, in 3 weeks, it could be a totally different story. We got 3.5, 4 weeks to work on this.
Absolutely. March 9th, I think.
March 9th. So, but that's the biggest thing. I think Hubert Davis, I think they bought more into their coach than our guys bought into John Shire.
Absolutely. I think Baycott finally bought into, hey, this is what I need to do. I don't need to try to score every time. It was weird seeing him make the right play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, oh, wow, this dude's actually passing when he should. He's being aggressive when he should. He's just restarting the offense when he should. He was the first player in this rivalry game to have 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists since Charlie Scott in the 70s.
That's hard.
That's insane. That's insane. If he can continue to play like that, if he can get to that level where the media thinks he is, but I've said that he's not near that level. But if he starts getting to that level, oh my God, this Carolina team could be.
I think they're going to win the national championship.
If he plays like that, absolutely. He's the key for them to win the championship. I mean, whether R.J. Davis is scoring 17 points without us even noticing, or Harrison Ingram is having probably an all ACC type performance, Cadeau is leading the team. That doesn't matter. If Baycott plays like this, the team's unstoppable.
They're really physical.
Oh, yeah. They bring it to the team.
Yeah. I mean, and they're older. They're stronger. I mean, what they say, Cormac Ryan's 25 years old.
Yeah, he's 25.
Yeah, that's a big difference in your body type compared to being 19 and 20.
Yeah.
Anybody doesn't agree with that, they're crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even Baycott's 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got, Cadeau is a freshman, but he's 19. So...
Does Duke even have a player over the age of 21? Jeremy Roach?
Jeremy Roach, yeah. I think
the only one. He had a great game last night.
Yeah, I mean, he's a solid point guard. He's never I don't think he's ever really gonna have a bad game. I think he's just, he's one of those solid college point guards where you're like, hey,
he's gonna be a great overseas player.
Yeah, or like a third string NBA point guard.
Yeah, maybe.
But let's you kind of mentioned how aggressive Carolina was and how physical they were. What'd you think about the free throws and how the referees called the game, especially in the first half? Because that seems to be a lot of people seem to have a problem with how it was called in the first half.
I don't. I watched it thoroughly, and and trust me, without even talking to my Duke brethren, I already know they're screaming their heads off about not having any free throws. Did it ever occur to you that maybe UNC played some really good D on you? And the game, you got to remember, the game also went from, help me out here, 13 and a half minutes to just under 8 minutes without a stoppage.
Yeah. And then you had
it's going to be hard to get a foul in there.
Yeah. And then you had back-to-back. I think I loved how the referees called this game, actually.
They let them play.
Yeah, 100%. I loved it. Even the 2 times referees went to the monitor to look at the plays, they didn't call a flagrant. Well, they did call a flagrant foul on R.J. Davis, which we can talk about in a second. But I think the referees did a great job. Both these teams don't foul. I mean, Duke doesn't foul. Carolina doesn't foul. Why did Why did people think that the referees were going to call a lot of fouls? I mean, I don't understand. Like
Here we
these teams legitimately are coached to play defense without fouling.
Here we go.
Yeah.
This is what I've been waiting for years. I'm talking to Duke and North Carolina fans right now. Both of us. You are so wrapped up in what you think your team deserves that you totally forget there's actually a game in front of
Yeah.
you with refs.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes calls get made, sometimes calls don't get made. I actually have zero problem at all with how the game was called last night. I thought it was clean. I thought they played hard. I Other than maybe one or two fouls out there that were questionable, I thought it was actually one of the better games because he and I have both seen some Duke Carolina games that have been called horribly
Oh yeah.
for years, and this was actually one of the better ones. Like I have no problem with how it. I did scratch my head a little bit about the fact that Duke did not shoot one free throw whatsoever in the first half, but you go back and watch and look, it's cleanliness of the game. That
Yeah.
both teams played a good, clean game.
Yeah, I think that's how college basketball should be called. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think I'm going to reference the Carolina game against Florida State last Saturday, the Saturday before, where the referees, Florida State plays two foul. They play defense two foul. They're like, hey, we're going to be physical on defense. The referees aren't going to call every foul. And that first half, the referees let them play, and it was super physical. I thought there was going to be a fight. Neither team looked good at all. Carolina was losing at halftime, or it was tied. Um, and that's just not how basketball should be called. And then in the second half of that game, all of a sudden they started calling all the fouls. And it was like, okay, well, this is actually worse somehow. In this game, they realized, hey, neither one of these teams foul, actually. I mean, you watch it, once a Duke player or anybody at Carolina's playing, once their guy gets close to the rim, a lot of times Carolina just kind of backs off and lets them throw up a layup. Like they'll throw their hands up and, try to deflect the ball, but they're not going after the body. They're not trying to make it hard for them to score at that point. And Duke's the same way. Duke's like if you get past the perimeter defenders, Duke's the same way. They're like, okay, we're gonna try to take a charge, or we're gonna try to block the shot. We're not gonna bump you. We're not gonna pull you. We're not gonna be physical. And I loved it. I mean, I think that first half was played in like 40 minutes of actual
It
time.
was so fast.
Yeah. So I loved it, man. I loved how the referees called it.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be called.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
being 45 years old next month, watching, the early 90s, Bulls, Pistons, Celtics, all that. Everybody always talks about that's the golden era. That's when it was tough. No, they fouled every single play and they didn't call it. Like
Yeah.
that's not basketball. I mean, it's football without pads.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that. I want to see the game called and ran and done right. And that's exactly what I think I saw last night. Nothing will make me change the channel faster than to see a foul, to see when both teams should have 14 team fouls each, and it's decided at the free throw line. I will just go find something else to watch.
Yeah, I would much rather the referees let them play and it get super physical where they're not calling anything instead of them calling fouls every time down the court. I think when both teams are in the bonus, like 8 minutes into the game, sometimes when you see it's like, okay, this is hard to watch.
They did swallow their whistle a couple of times for both teams on a couple of traveling violations.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if the referees just aren't paying attention this year or what, but that's been a lot this year. I don't know if you've noticed that in Duke games, but in Carolina games, there's been a lot of times where somebody will travel and there's just zero calls. I mean, even Carolina's loss against Georgia Tech, the three that the guy made to go up by 2, I think, or maybe to go up by 3 with like a minute left, he clearly travels. And it's like, okay, where was there's nobody around. Like, what are you looking at? Like, so is the referees just not paying attention to that this year?
I think they're trying to turn the game more into the NBA because first off, their excuse was that Caleb Foster bobbled the ball going in for a layup. He did not bobble the ball. He took 3.5 steps, and they did not call it. Okay? Mr. Baycott, you did have a great game, and not like this would have mattered, but you had one under the block where you had 2 Duke defenders around you. I watched your pivot foot do a 360. You throw out to Ingram, and he buries it.
Yeah.
Live with it is part of it. Not going to cry about it, but they are swallowing their whistle a lot. Like he clearly traveled.
Yeah, that happens a lot in college too
Yes,
with the pivot foot. It's like the referees don't understand that your pivot foot isn't supposed to
ever
move.
at all. And he 360 the pivot foot right into
Oh,
the
I mean,
corner.
I've seen a guy pivot from one side of the basket to the other and get an open layup, and it's like, wait a minute, like,
Wait a minute.
yeah,
Is that
like,
LeBron James?
I mean, probably, yeah, LeBron, yeah. If this was an NBA show, we would probably really be hating on the refs. But I guess let's talk about the one that I consider it a bad referee call was the flagrant foul on R.J. Davis there at the end. I mean, what the hell? What kind of call was that, man? I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I think, me personally,
Are
I
we
thought
going with heart call or are we going with technicality? How do you want me to call it?
I'm saying right now, I think it should have been a no call. I don't think it was a foul on either player at all.
Oh, he fouled him.
I,
And technically, by the rules, it was the right call.
I don't see how that's. No, the dude, you got a 7-footer and a 6-footer. If that's
Holding 10 yard. That should have
no,
been a 10-yard penalty.
that's one of the worst holding calls. He barely has any contact with his arm at all.
I think it's a terrible rule. How about that?
Oh, it's a terrible rule, absolutely. I think I was surprised even when they kept showing the replay. I was like, how is this even a foul? Period. And then everybody's like, oh, that should be a foul on Filipowski. Is what the Carolina fans say. I'm like, how's that even a foul on him?
His left arm. And you have to look at the very end when he's trying to bring his left arm up to have two hands to grab the rebound. And R.J. Davis was holding the arm. Now, it didn't make a difference in the game. They couldn't at all.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so it's kind of one of those things. So the right call was made, but that's happening every single time on the way down the floor. It's like holding in football. It's going to happen every single play. So you need to make the rules adjust. We've been adjusting rules left and right in college for the last 4 and 5 years. Change this rule. This rule should not exist. If you want to call it a common foul, okay. Should you? No.
No.
Should you let it go and let them play? Yeah.
Yeah.
But to the letter of the law, I think they did get it right. I love what the ref said to Jay Billis, and who's the guy calling the game with Billis?
Dude, I don't even know.
Either way.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm about to get booed real bad, so y'all hear this, and then he makes the call. But
yes, I didn't even hear that.
Hey, it all worked out in Carolina's favor because they made 1 out of 2 free throws, and they turned the ball over right on the inbounds.
Turned it right. Yeah, sometimes the referees just need to understand the point of the game, too. Like, what's the point of really – the game's over at that point. What was the point of really calling that? And I don't think it changed the outcome of that play. You know what I'm saying? Like, because Trimble was basically getting the ball. Well, he wasn't even going to get the ball because.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Filipowski wasn't getting it. Trimble was already there. It had zero effect. The whole play, it was one of those weird things where it was like, what is actually going on right now? Like, why are they looking at this? Why was there a foul called? We have one of those plays almost every time Carolina Duke plays where it's like, what is going on?
What kind of eagle eyes do these refs have to be able to see that down? I mean, you have to look. If you go back, anybody who cares enough, go back to the replay. It's literally the last second of the play where R.J. Davis is holding him like this at the very end. And, I mean. And
at that point, he's falling down. I think he's just holding on so he doesn't fall down, honestly. Like, I think it's just like, holy crap, I'm going to fall down. Like, I'm just going to hold on to your arm. But also, it's going to happen every time a 6-footer goes against a 7-footer on a rebound.
Actually, I just thought about something. I want to get your take on it.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually saw that play. What I think they saw was was it Cadeau? It was one of your players
Trimble elbowed him.
Trimble.
Yeah.
Just flies in there, off the top rope and hits his own player, lays him out. Everybody's booing Filipowski like he had something to do with it. Then they all look at the replay and say, oh, not
Trimble
his fault.
Yeah,
Trimble did.
Yeah.
Because they were reviewing that, I think that's when they found that call.
I think so too.
Which that's shady. I hate that. Yeah. Call it right, call it immediately.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those too where sometimes when a player gets hurt and has to go out of the game, I feel like the referees feel like they have to call something. We saw that last year. I don't know if you remember last year, but Carolina played State last year. I don't remember the State player's name. He plays in the NBA now, but it was a fast break dunk, and Leaky Black tries to contend it. And I can't remember if he blocks it or not, but the State player falls down right on his ass. And he lay there for like 10 minutes, and they had to wheelchair him off. And it was like, oh, my God, this guy might seriously be hurt. So they call it they actually kicked Leaky Black out of the game. And it's like you watch the replay, and it's like he barely does it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the dude just happened to fall on his ass. And When you're 10 feet in the air, then you fall down right on your tailbone. Yeah, it's
That's
probably
gonna
gonna hurt,
hurt.
but it had no. It's just like I think sometimes referees are like, oh, this guy's hurt. Like we got to call. Like there's got to be something. Like, and I think sometimes referees just get too caught up in, hey, we have to call something. And but for us to have this good of a game and to only have one call where we're like, oh my god, like what happened there is really good. I think this was one of the best played games
Yeah.
in a long time.
Like, I'll still put my Duke team against 90% of the teams in the country.
Oh yeah.
They're still a good team. They still have a shot to make a run towards the end.
Oh yeah.
Do I think this team can go all the way? Honestly, no. But do I think they can make a good showing? Absolutely. And I did just think about something else as far as the refs, and we can leave that point if you want.
Yeah.
So, Kyle Armando Bacot fouled Filipowski so bad they didn't call it, and then Filipowski drives in and two-hand dunks the ball right there.
Oh yeah.
That would have actually benefited Carolina to call the foul.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not understand that. Like.
Like that was another one, but
Yeah, that was another one where it was like, oh my God, like I think he was wanting to foul. I think he was literally like, I'm trying to foul him. Like I don't understand. Like he's gonna go in and score. There's no
Yeah.
stopping him here. I'm gonna foul him. And then they didn't call. I was like, oh my God, like what just happened here? Like it was crazy because Duke wasn't even shooting free throws at that point.
no, they
So it
were not in the bonus.
It would have been side out.
Yes.
Like I was like, oh my God, like how do you literally like did he flop? Probably, but you could tell he legit was trying to foul him. That was the weirdest non-call ever.
I mean, Filipowski's still a big guy. To see him get knocked back 6 to 12 inches from running into
Yeah.
Bacot, I mean, yeah, there's a foul there. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not totally complaining about it because I love how they called the game.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
really do.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have a game called with fewer fouls than tons of fouls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because then it makes the refs look like they're more important than they really are.
Yeah, I would rather that be a no call instead of some kind of flagrant off. Honestly, a lot of times they would call it an offensive foul, and I think that's kind of what threw them off. But yeah, I think overall the referees did a great job, and I think as between Carolina and Duke games, I think this was one of the best played games in probably 5 years. Probably 2018 when Zion and Kobe White and Cam Johnson and R.J. Barrett. I think that was probably the last time we had a good.
The ACC championship game?
Yeah, or the regular season. I mean, both the regular
Well, the
season
regular
games,
season game, they
Well, Zion
beat
didn't play.
exactly,
Yeah,
and they
but those-
won by 10 plus
But
points
those were
each
still
game.
well played games. I mean, all three of those were just well
Yeah.
played games. Because even last year, Last year they were low scoring. Like even the other year, like I mean, you could say the one where it was, where Carolina ended Coach K's home game or the Final Four game, even. But even then, those games were still sloppy. I mean, they had great endings, really, is what we remember about them. But they weren't well. Like this whole game was just like, okay, these are two really good teams.
Oh, speaking of which, you bring me back to one of my favorite memories because Duke was on the right side of it. The 2015 at Duke.
Was that with Okafor?
Okafor, Winslow,
Yeah.
Tyus Jones.
Overtime game?
Overtime game when Duke was down by 8 with like a minute left and found a way to tie the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, that was Carolina found ways to lose. That Carolina team makes the title game the next year in
Yeah.
2016.
Nova.
And in 05 or in 2015, I mean, literally they could have made the title game that year too if they just didn't blow late leads. Like that game against Duke, they did that a bunch of times. So
In the tournament, they blew a late lead to Wisconsin, who
Yeah.
ended up meeting Duke in the final.
yeah, well, Wisconsin was on a mission that year too, though.
Well, access denied.
Yeah, well, Wisconsin won their championship when they beat Kentucky, so there was that.
True, too.
Yeah,
Very true. No,
yeah. That goes back to me saying the best team doesn't always win the championship in college
I
basketball.
firmly agree.
Oh, it's probably 8 out of 10 times I would say the best team does not win. Like last year, I don't think the best team won, but that's neither here nor there.
That's a very debatable topic for a different day.
Yeah, but all right, we just had round 1, Carolina Duke. We get round 2 in a little over a month. As of right now, where do you see these two teams going? Where do you predict them to go now? Like where are they headed?
In the nation or in the ACC?
Just in the nation. Carolina and the ACC, Carolina's got a 2-game lead in the ACC. You gotta say
Oh,
Carolina,
they're going to win the regular season.
yeah, you gotta say Carolina should hopefully somehow win the ACC. I mean, they play Clemson next, which could be a tough game. Clemson, puts up fights, but yeah, you'd like to think Carolina ends up winning the ACC. Duke probably finishes second. But yeah, nation-wise in the tournament, like, what's your prediction? How do you feel about
Carolina gets a 1 seed.
Yeah,
They're not the 1 seed, but they'll
No,
get a 1 seed. They'll probably come through Charlotte,
yeah, yeah,
which will be exciting because I
absolutely.
hope both of them do.
I mean, most likely they should in
I
the
see Duke being your 3 seed, and I hope they're not in with UConn or Purdue.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I agree. I agree with that. Duke's probably a 3 seed.
would I bet on Duke to get out of the first weekend? Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah, I would. Do I expect them to get out of the second weekend? No.
nah, yeah,
I think there's too. Okay, so Duke is a good team, but they're also very beatable in a lot of aspects. Like you saw last night, physicality and great ball movement. That's what beat them,
oh yeah,
and not taking care of the basketball.
yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't take care of the ball at
But
all.
they really didn't have that many turnovers though. I
No.
mean, it's not like they struggled with turnovers. I mean, they only had 11. It's really not that bad.
I see North Carolina making the Final Four, assuming you don't run into one of these physical
Yeah,
4 and 5 seeds who have nothing better to do than to knock off the storied North Carolina program, which there's so many of them out there that can do it. Or you got this 8 and 9 seed is having a magical day. Now, do I think the 8-9 thing will happen? No. Do I mean this when I say this. I think they're going to the Final Four, and if they could win the whole thing, they really could. But if they can play like they did last night, if they can listen to their coach, yeah, I see a very bright 2024 for this team.
yeah.
I really do.
I think you're spot on with both predictions. I think Duke as a 3 seed is probably where they're going to finish. I think Sweet 16 is probably where they're at, depending on who the 2 seed is in their bracket. Um, Elite Eight possibly. I just don't see them beating. I feel like eventually they'll run into a team.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee's really good. I think. Yeah, I think there's just too many teams out there that are better than Duke, and it's going to be hard for them to escape all those teams to make the Final Four.
Bad matchups.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna run into because Tennessee plays about the same way Carolina does. So, and then UConn's inside game, I feel like is just way too strong for anybody. But and same with Purdue. So I think with Duke, it really they need a good bracket to make the Final Four. But definitely second weekend. I think Carolina, like you said, I think Carolina just they can just avoid the physical team that just. But we say that, but Carolina's won a lot of physical games this year. They seem to like that, honestly. Like they seem to like playing the Florida States. They seem to like playing, the other physical team like Virginia Tech. They seem to like
Hmm.
playing these kind of teams. I think Carolina's biggest problem is going to be,
Free throws.
their free throws. They did struggle last night, but as a team on paper, they're actually a good free throw shooting team. I mean,
They are, but I also see a lot of big moments, and the games that they've lost it there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right about that, but I think this Carolina season is going to come down to they're either going to lose to a team that's just better, such as UConn or Purdue, or they're going to end up losing to a team that they don't want to play, such as Kansas or Arizona.
See, I think they'll beat either of those teams.
Well, Carolina never beats Kansas, and I'll guarantee you right now, Carolina plays Caleb Love. I hate to say it, but I think Caleb Love wins that game somehow, some way.
Mm,
It's just Carolina always loses the games where there's any kind of emotion or any kind of feelings involved. Carolina loses that game. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. But Carolina will find a way to lose any kind of game like that. It's just the way it is. Or maybe Tom Izzo announces right before the tournament, hey, this is my last season, and then Carolina plays them, and then Tom Izzo beats them. I mean, it's going to be something stupid like that. I guarantee it almost. I can already see it now because I don't think. And if Carolina does make the Final Four, they either got to play Purdue or UConn, and I just don't think Zach Edey's going to have a field day against Baycott. I mean,
see that you just mentioned the only 2 teams that I think will actually out physical them
yeah.
and out rebound them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well, we already saw Carolina play UConn.
I watched Kansas a number of times this year. I've also watched, Kentucky, obviously, all these teams. I don't think they're better than North Carolina.
No, I think
I think Carolina has bigger, stronger, older,
yeah.
more mature. They're coming together and they're playing. I mean, they're a great team.
I think you go back to Carolina's losses. They have 3 losses on the season. Well, 4 losses on the season. They lost to Villanova,
Hmm.
Kentucky, and UConn. Okay, UConn was the better team, which we have both said. We both think UConn is one of the top two teams in America. So no problem with Carolina losing that game. I actually felt like Carolina played almost the best they could in that game. They lose to Villanova in overtime in a game that was officiated horribly. And
I remember that game. I
yeah.
couldn't believe it.
For a 7-minute stretch in the second half, the referees called one foul, and Carolina went on like a 15-1 run or something. Okay, so the referees probably played a big part in that role. The Kentucky game, Carolina was off for like 9 days before they played that game, and then it still came down to the wire. I think Carolina beats Kentucky if they play again. Carolina beats Villanova if they play again.
Villanova might not make it.
Villanova might be looking for a new coach.
Fast.
Jay Wright might be.
Jay Wright's retired.
Yeah, but he might be trying to come back. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they're calling him right now. Like, hey, Jay.
Or who do you recommend?
Yeah. Who do we want? Because your guy is not working like at all. Like, holy crap, dude. Like, what is their problem? I mean, they're what?
Them in Louisville. I can't get over that.
Louisville. Kenny Payne does have like 9 career wins now. So there's that. I mean,
embarrassing.
Yeah.
But back to your point. I mean, yeah.
Oh wait, what's even crazier is he has 8 McDonald's All-Americans on that team. By the way,
that's unreal.
Louisville. Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. Anyways, what were you gonna say?
This team is different.
Yeah.
I've seen, obviously, my whole life watching Carolina basketball. I've seen a lot of times their youth gets them. Their lack of physicality gets them.
Oh, yeah.
Lack of coaching I've seen. Yeah, all you Roy fans out there, I've watched him coach you out of a number of games.
Oh, yeah.
All the things that I've seen them struggle with in the past few years, 5 to 10 years, they're not right now.
No.
They're not. They have a great point guard. They have a soon-to-be great coach. They're extremely physical, extremely strong. They move the ball well. They're 100 miles an hour up and down each side of the court.
That's fun to watch.
I mean, yeah, they are the most complete team. That's why I'm saying, like, if I'm going to, if you only gave me one team to bet on, it would not be them. But if you gave me a list of 5 teams to bet on, they're definitely in there.
Oh, yeah. I think, 5 for sure. I mentioned this last night. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. I mentioned this last night at one point. It was after the game, but I mentioned this. There's a world that we live in where Harrison Ingram comes back to school. He's only a junior. So technically he can still play 2 more years, by the way.
Okay.
Because that COVID year, he fit into that COVID year. Maybe he comes back next year, all right?
Not if you win it.
Well, I'm just saying. We're just
okay.
Yeah. So maybe he comes back. Elliot Cadeau.
He should definitely.
Yeah, he should definitely come back. But then you also got RJ Davis, got his COVID year.
I don't see him coming back.
There's a world that we live in, I think, where he says, hey, I'm making more money in college than I'm probably going to make in the NBA. Because as a 6-foot shooting guard, I'm probably not going to play in the NBA.
If that's the case, then we might see a Duke and UNC national title in 2025.
Because I was going to say, because that leads me to the next point. There's also a world we live in where Filipowski comes back, and then you have him and Cooper Flagg, and the 2 greatest white guys in the college basketball on the same team.
White hype relived.
Yeah, and Jeremy Roach, I guess, could come back still, right? Like
Jeremy Roach, McCain, Tyrese Proctor.
Yeah,
I'd like for you to go pro.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I'm tired of you.
There's no world that we live in where Tyrese Proctor comes back.
I'm tired of you.
He's in the NBA in his own head. He's already playing for.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a big problem. Like, I get it for all you first round. And I know it's weird to say this. He and I have been bagging on how his game is, but we also know how good he is. He's a first round pick.
I mean,
first round.
I 100% agree, but that also has nothing to do with his talent as it does, I think, the horribleness of the NBA draft.
You're not wrong there. Not wrong there. It's definitely going downhill, but
I mean, there's,
he reminds me of Austin Rivers.
Oh God, what a horrible pick that was. I think 30 to 40 years ago, maybe, then the 90s possibly, Harrison Ingram would have been a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. Now you look at it, I'm not even sure. I mean, yeah, he's a first rounder, but you're going to tell me somebody like the Pistons or the Hornets, one of these, or the Spurs, one of these teams that can't win but 10 games, couldn't use a guy like him, but instead they're going to go pick somebody, based off of their upside, such as Proctor. Like if I'm an NBA team, I'm probably taking Ingram over Proctor
I don't know about that.
just because you know what you're getting. Now, if you're a good team, no, if you're a good team, I think you probably take Proctor because you can put him on the bench. But one of these bad teams, and there's a lot of bad teams in the
But
NBA, by the way.
the thing I see the difference between Proctor and Ingram is that Proctor can get his shot a whole lot easier than Ingram can get his shot.
Yeah.
And in defense in the NBA is a whole different level.
Oh,
People don't realize it. They
no,
think they don't play defense.
No,
No, it's the offenses are that good and they have a 400-page playbook.
Yeah, the NBA they do play defense. They just call a lot of stupid fouls.
They do.
Makes it seem like they don't play defense.
I just feel like Tyrese Proctor has more of an NBA type of game than Ingram does. Now, you wouldn't have known that last night. You'd have thought Ingram was lobbying for the first pick.
I mean,
and he played an awesome game.
Absolutely. I think Ingram is going to be an NBA player for about 18 minutes, and I think Proctor is going to be an NBA player on a team like the Pistons that wins 4 games.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's wrong with the NBA.
See, I can see Ingram going to a team like Golden State with a bunch of shooters.
Yeah,
I really could.
Yeah, he would fit in perfect on a team like that. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Or like a team like the Bucks.
Yep.
Yeah, or even like a team like, could you imagine with
The
like
Celtics?
the Celtics? Yeah, oh, he would fit in perfect. Him instead of Grant Williams.
Mhm.
Like that's like they play kind of the same style, I believe, actually. Let's get back to college basketball though,
Yeah,
because I hate the NBA.
I don't hate it, but I'm mad at it. How about that?
Yeah, it's hard to watch. There's too many. You got a 48-minute game, takes 3 hours to play.
And too many 60 and 70-point performances.
Oh,
like,
man.
what is that about?
Tyrese Proxy getting 50 plus 2 times in a season, that's ridiculous. Now people are going to say like he's a superstar. Dude, that guy would not even play in the 80s or 90s.
No. Especially in the 2000s.
Yeah, or yeah, even in the early 2000s. Yeah, he would never he would never play. I mean, he's a bench player. He's him and Mark Madsen. They'd be sitting over there dancing on the sideline.
Mad Dog Madsen.
Yeah. Which is a nice segue back to college, I think. So let's go ahead and mention it here, man. So prediction time, as always. Do we still think UConn and Purdue are the top 2 teams, as we've said? Who's our dark horse now? Outside
On February 4th?
Yeah, February 4th. Who's our dark
Yeah.
horse? Or who's our dark horse though? It can't be Carolina. We've already mentioned Carolina. We've
Okay.
mentioned Tennessee. We'll throw out Tennessee, Carolina, UConn, and Purdue. I think is that the Final Four probably is what we're thinking.
I mean, that's a better's Final Four for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so outside of those 4, who's our dark horse team on February 4th? I mean,
Who is the 4 you mentioned?
Tennessee, Carolina, UConn, Purdue. Now, are you going to say
Outside of those
outside
4?
of those 4? Yeah. Who? If you had to, yeah, yeah. Who else are you
Other than
thinking?
Kansas.
No, you can pick Kansas because Kansas. I mean,
I love Bill Self, and he's a great coach.
so you think Kansas should belong up there with them?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that. I could see that.
No, they're a good team. They just haven't figured it out. Once they mesh, they're different. They're completely different.
And that's what people are forgetting about Kansas is that they're trying to figure things out. They got a couple young players. They got Dickinson.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to figure things out, and they're starting to figure out. They just killed Houston.
As they should have.
They shot 70%.
That's nuts.
Houston's done. I have zero faith in them. I'm not even sure that Houston is a second round NCAA tournament or a second weekend NCAA tournament team now. I'm done with Houston. They're off my board. I'm done.
I cannot get. I'm sorry, everybody. I've always had a little bit of an issue with mid majors who play nobody and always find a way to go 28-2.
Yeah.
Hey, look at us. Hey, look at us. You get in a tournament and you get your ass kicked.
Yes, agreed.
And I think that'll happen. Like this might. I don't think I'd put Houston against Duke
No,
even after last night.
I'm telling you right now, Houston is a team, they lose in the first or second round of the NCAA tournament.
I can see. Let's say they get a 5 seed. I could see some anxious 12 just
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
absolutely
pay attention to
running
their
them over.
matchup. Yeah. Another team I'm throwing off my board. Back-to-back losses now. Wisconsin.
Mm.
And I understand one of those losses was to Purdue. Okay, I get that. But it's in Wisconsin. Coming off of a loss. This is not a game that you should lose, but they lost. Wisconsin's off my board. They're off. I'm throwing Wisconsin. They're done. I'm done with them. I'm done with Houston. I'm done with Wisconsin. Kansas, like you said, still up there. I'm throwing Marquette up there as well. I think Marquette is
Ah,
not.
you read my mind. I was going to ask you if I could use my dark horse from last time
Yeah,
along
that's
with
fine.
it.
That's fine. Yeah. I
Yeah, they're
mean,
killing people.
yeah, they're looking better and better. And Shaka Smart, I think, is finally, what was it? 2011, he goes to the Final Four with VCU.
Hmm.
It's
What a
taken him,
run.
it's taken him 13 years, but I think he's finally where he belongs, and that's as possibly the best coach in America.
That team could win the whole thing.
Absolutely. And I think it's not only they got the best point guard probably in college basketball, but I think Shaka Smart really is the best coach. And I think
You
he's
talk about
finally,
X's and O's and
yeah.
just making things
Oh
happen.
yeah, yeah.
I
I mean,
agree with
his
that.
recruiting, I don't even think he cares.
Him
who he has.
himself
Yeah, yeah. Well, and Tom Izzo also.
and Izzo.
Yeah. Um,
Boy, they have fallen off.
that's another weird team though. If they make it to the tournament though, don't count them out.
Oh, if they're an 11 seed, they're going to the Elite Eight. I can pretty much book it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the lower the seed they are, the better chances they have.
You know what's funny? I'm looking at this top 25 outside the teams and the dark horses that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Marquette and Kansas are like the only ones.
Arizona is iffy. Arizona is iffy.
Yeah, they are.
But I think that's any team that Caleb Love ever plays on is going to be. They could be good. Oh no, they could be bad.
I will-
They're just in the middle.
I will throw you one out there that always seems to make headway, and they're playing great right now.
Creighton,
Auburn.
Auburn, yes. Well, they got a good coach.
They do have a good
Yeah,
coach.
good
Bruce Pearl.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great coach. Yeah, honestly, he's one of the best coaches in basketball. This is not a deep team. Like I don't see any of the teams from like 15 to 25 though really making a run in the tournament. I mean, Alabama, I don't think is what they were last year at all. BYU, I feel like is probably overranked. Florida Atlantic is probably not where they were last year. Texas Tech maybe could surprise people. I feel like, yeah, I think, like we said, the top four, UConn, Purdue, Carolina, Houston, Carolina, Tennessee. And then after that, I think you got Kansas and Marquette. Kentucky, 3 straight losses now. They're honestly, I don't know who do they got next because next we're playing at Vanderbilt. Okay, so that's probably a win.
It's a good get right
yeah.
game for them.
But then after that, they play Gonzaga.
It's Gonzaga. I mean, I have.
Gonzaga's not even in the top 25. They just lost last night to St. Mary's.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
If they're not in the top 25 and they play the most cupcake, that's not a Power Five.
No.
Mountain West.
No.
Yeah.
No. But
or whatever you call them.
if Gonzaga beats Kentucky,
Oh, I'm signing them off.
yeah, they're off my board. And then, but I will put Gonzaga back into my board. Even though Gonzaga is not a top 25 team, if they beat
Yeah, but are
Kentucky,
they going to make the tournament?
Gonzaga, they'll make the tournament because they'll finish second in their conference. They'll probably win the conference tournament. I think it's one of those things where how do you leave Gonzaga out if they finish second in that conference?
What's their record?
They're 16-6.
Their record's pretty good. They left a 9-win Clemson, a 9-loss Clemson team out last year. So what do we know?
Well, that's because they're in the weak ACC.
That's true. They are in the weak
Gonzaga's
ACC.
in the humongous, very tough West Coast Conference.
I've got a March Madness prediction.
All right.
I think you're going to have numerous 1 seeds, all 4 of them, because of the strength at the top. And I think you're going to have a bunch of 6, 7, and 10 seeds.
Yeah, I could definitely I like that prediction, and I think this is a great way to kind of end the show. I think I can see the Elite Eight being 4 number ones, the 4 number ones, and then like just 4 low seeds.
Well, it's going to piggyback off the point you made a minute ago about rankings about 10 through. I'm gonna go 14 through 25.
Yeah.
None of them impress me.
No,
Not a one. And
they
can all get beat.
Yeah, Illinois does not surprise me. Creighton at 13, I like them. I still like Creighton. And I feel like they're kind of just coasting along like, hey, we want the tournament. Because they should have been a Final Four team last year. But even then, there's still teams above them. Like we've mentioned, Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State? Are they impressing us?
They just lost to Baylor, but they are good.
Yeah, but I mean, are they worthy of a number 12 team?
No.
It's a very weird rankings this year. And nothing would make the NCAA selection committee happy than to see the 4 number ones make the Elite Eight because last year you had 4 low seeds make the Final Four. Even though UConn won, but they were what was UConn when they won? A 6 seed?
UConn was a 4 seed last year.
Yeah. I think the selection committee is going to pay more attention this year and rank teams where they should be because Florida Atlantic last year was an 8 seed. They were a top 25 team.
and they were one
Yeah.
shot away from playing for the title.
Yeah, they were an 8 seed, but they were number 24 in the nation. Like, I'm sorry.
I've never understood that either.
Like, how do you just not go down the rankings and be like, okay, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3?
I always thought that's how it was. And then they have a certain way that certain conferences match up with certain conferences, go to certain areas. Like Duke or North Carolina, if they're a 1 seed, then they're going to get the East region.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I've seen Duke come out of the Midwest a few times.
Yeah, Carolina's gone out west a couple of times.
Like 2019, the greatest regular season the NCAA ever had, 3 1 seeds. 3 1 seeds. And you have Virginia playing all the way out in California. So there's not an exact math for it.
No, but I think this could be the second time we get all 4 number 1s in the Final Four.
I would not shock me.
No, I think this is just. I think
it needs to happen.
I think it should. I think there's. If they seeded teams correctly, I think it would happen a lot more. The problem is, you usually have a lot of like top 3 or 4 teams overranked and a lot of teams underranked. So you end up having a team that should be a 3 seed as like a 7 seed, and then it's like naturally, instinctively, we if we're playing, we're gonna look at a team out of their 7 seed. Like, well, I take them seriously. Like if Florida Atlantic last year was a 4 seed, like they should have been, as a or a 5 seed or whatever, as a top 25 team, you should probably be a top 5 seed. If they were there, I don't think they make that run.
I think they also got some help from FDU knocking off Purdue.
Yeah. That was very interesting.
I am actually pulling for 4 1 seeds because I love the sport more than I love my team, oddly enough. And I love my team because in 2022, that was one of the best Final Fours I'd ever seen.
Absolutely.
You had Kansas Villanova. Okay.
Yeah.
2 of the most storied programs. And then the 2 most storied programs, Duke and North Carolina, against each other.
Yeah.
Last year, you had UConn, boring, San Diego State, boring, Miami, boring, and FAU.
Yeah.
I have that in different order, but those are the 4 teams. Did anybody really care?
I didn't watch.
Of course I watched, but did anybody really care?
I mean, no. I mean, I wanted anybody but UConn to win.
Well, UConn had the widest margin of victory in the entire NCAA tournament in history.
Yeah, I didn't watch a single minute.
Which I think hurts college basketball.
Absolutely.
I want good competition.
Yeah, I just want
1s and 2 seeds.
Yeah, I just want games to be close. The other time that we had all 4 number 1s in the Final Four, though,
2008.
Yeah, it was Carolina and Kansas, and then Memphis
and UCLA. Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Kevin
Love.
Still
Westbrook too. Also still getting a check. That UCLA team. How did they not win a title? They had a 5-year span. How did they not win a title?
That Memphis team with Derrick Rose was unbelievable.
Yeah, if they could have made a free throw in the second half, they easily win that game. I mean, that was unbelievable.
That would have been vacated because Calipari, he is what he is.
If they win that title, that does get vacated, yeah, absolutely, which is sad. It's sad that we haven't seen Louisville win a title this decade, or
You know what? They won the title. I don't care. To me, they'll always be the 2013 national champions.
I was dreaming when I watched that game, so I don't know. It didn't actually happen. It didn't happen. No,
it didn't happen.
No, it was a great game, but it didn't happen. So, no, I think this was a good show, man. I think talking Carolina Duke round 1. It does make me excited for round 2.
Mm-hmm.
I guess let's throw it out there really quick. Prediction for round 2. What happens? In Cameron, or as I like to call it.
80-77 Duke. They pick up the defense a little bit more. For any of y'all who have never been to Cameron, it is probably the hottest place on earth.
Yeah.
And teams will never score as much in Cameron as they will at home. So I think Duke rights the wrong. Doesn't mean they're a better team, but I think Duke by 3 in Cameron.
All right, I'm going to go the exact opposite.
Okay.
I'm going to say Carolina like 102-89.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're going to score tons of points.
Yeah, I think Carolina goes into that game and just says, screw it. Like
we're the best. Let's show it.
Yeah, I think it will be the first time that Carolina goes in there with that attitude probably since like Kendall Marshall, Harrison Barnes, when they went in there and scored 100. And they were like, we need to just kill these guys. Because even in 2022, when they ended Coach K's career, that team didn't want to kill Coach K. They just were like, oh, we need to win to make the tournament. And really, they got lucky because Duke played bad. That was all that was. I mean, that was, Carolina really probably maybe, the Carolina got very lucky on that whole run, honestly.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if your prediction came true either. It wouldn't shock
and
me in the
yours wouldn't
least.
shock me at all.
Putting up 102 points in Cameron, that's a really tall task for any team. I mean, it's possible, of
Absolutely.
course, but
I got vibes from this
like
team.
that, I've been there. I went there in February and walked out sweating in a t-shirt. It is a sauna.
Oh,
It is
No air
ridiculous. No, none.
Yeah, I mean the place was built in like 1800s.
And the place is hopping from the time it starts till the time it finishes. So
well, all the Northerners are just happy to be down south. That's all it is.
it felt
Yeah, I think either prediction could be correct. I think it's just I don't know. I get vibes from the vibes I get from Carolina is they're gonna go in there and whoop butt. But honestly, anytime they do go in there, I always expect about a 3-point loss.
But-
so there's that.
because he's still on the team, I have to deal with him. Duke only gets that win if Tyrese Proctor shows up. If Tyrese Proctor does his same shenanigans again, they lose.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Duke has no chance to win any game almost if he plays like he did last night. That's just the way it is. But yeah, Brandon, it's been a good show, man.
It was a great show.
Good Blue, Bad Blue. You know, we're on YouTube, on the Podcast Hell channel. We're also on Spotify. So check us out. Listen, watch, do whatever you got to do. Brandon, it's been fun, dude. It's been
Always.
fun. We'll come back again here
Love
soon.
this.
Yeah, me too. I love college basketball. I love talking college basketball.
March 10th at minimum.
Yeah. Oh, I never asked. Where did you watch the game last night anyways? I went to Hooters and watched it. I don't know.
I was actually, where was I? I was in a parking lot watching it.
Nice. That's
Doing
dedication.
DoorDash.
That's dedication right there, my friend. That is.
Oh, I did my DoorDash from about 3 to about 6:25.
Yeah.
Said, did it, and made a few runs during halftime.
Dedication, my friend. Dedication. All right, buddy. So that's the end of our show.
That's it.
We appreciate y'all listening, and we'll check you later.
Peace out.